You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome back and Merry Christmas, Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome to One-on-One, a KC Sports Network podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike DeVito, here as always with Big Jeff Allen, and we are here to bring you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective. We hope everybody had an awesome Christmas. We know it was that much better. The food, the friends, the family, the gifts, coming off that big win on Saturday against Seattle. Big Jeff, how was your Christmas, man?
Hey, everything's better after a win, right? It was a great Christmas.
Baby.
My kids are at that age where they're loving everything about Christmas. My daughter's leaving out letters and notes for Santa. We got the cookies and the milk. Everything is just so great for them right now. So I love this age, and it was a great Christmas.
It really is. It's a fun time of year, especially with the kids. It's just they like you said, they breathe life back into it. And then we got the big win. So obviously, like you said, everything great after a win. Some things to talk about today. I think the biggest thing on the docket, brother, is the J.J. Watt retirement. I mean, that's just not out of nowhere, but certainly you're reflecting back on an incredible career. I mean, talk to me, man. You played with him in Houston. Talk to me about J.J., man.
J.J., I'll give you a fun story. So obviously I was a Chief before I was a Texan. So I was on the outside looking in and judging, I guess, a book by its cover with JJ. So I absolutely hated JJ before I was his teammate. I thought everything was fake about him. I thought all of it was scripted. And I just thought it was Hollywood in a sense. I thought he was acting until I became his teammate. And I remember when I got there and I was like, God, this guy is really all about what he says. He's the first guy in, last guy out, works extremely hard and busts his ass every single play, whether it's practice or a game. I've never seen anything like it. And we obviously all strive to be like that. But to see a human being actually do it, it was a sight to behold, man. And honestly, I think the reason why he started to deal with injuries later in his career is because, in a sense, he overworked himself. But it's also what made him great. He kind of burned himself out. And this isn't a surprise to see him retire. Some people are like, oh, this is early. I mean, he's been speaking the last 4 years about retiring. So I'm happy to see him walk away on his own terms. I know he has, a beautiful wife, and he just had a newborn. So he's thinking about a lot of life after football, and it's good to see him take that next step. He's obviously going to be missed. He changed the game, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he had that 4-year stretch where he was unblockable. I mean, it probably was the greatest 4-year stretch as a defensive player in NFL history. And, unfortunately, I had to face him a few of those times. But I was able to hold my own a couple of times, which helped me out. That's why Houston ended up signing me.
Yeah, well, no, exactly right. But I think as a defensive player, watching J.J. Watt, especially in the offseason, OTAs, when you're in there and you're evaluating other players who play your position, trying to pick up nuances and different moves and seeing how other guys are playing the game. He was one of those guys that I've spoken about before that you could watch, but you couldn't do what he did, right? I mean, there are very few that could mimic what J.J. Watt did on the field. And sometimes, the only criticism I used to have of J.J. was, it just seemed like, you tell me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but it seems like at times he had a total disregard for
assignment sound football.
Yeah.
I hated it too. I mean, it throws you off as an offensive player, as an offensive lineman. Right. Obviously, everything is gap sound, right?
Right.
So if we see an edge defender, we're like, okay, JJ's playing the 4. He's in the C gap right now. He's going to have to spike into the B. Well, JJ, his patent move, his favorite move is to fake that spike inside and lay you back. But he's quick enough and agile enough to bend and get back and make the play, which made him so special. And why guys couldn't do it beside him. I mean, Aaron Donald can do it, but there's only a select few guys that can do those types of things and have that free reign. And he had a good linebacker core behind him. I mean, Brian Cushing for years made him right. And that sucks in the run game if you aren't on the same page. But he also had some good teammates around him, which also made him great. Yeah,
those linemen were right up on those backers. But, I mean, like you said, he could get displaced 2 gaps and have the ability and speed and everything to bend down the line and cover up the ground that he missed and make a play in the backfield. I mean, I just I was always like, man, I wish I could do something like that. But
man, we all do.
No, and you know what else? I don't know. He really, I don't know if he revolutionized, but the one thing I always liked watching about him too is he seemed to be able to mimic that outside pass rush style inside, right? So at a 3 technique. So he would use like a long arm as a 3 technique. Do things that you would normally see out at that wide 9. He was able somehow to be able to work that stuff on a guard, or he'd be up the field 2 steps and then long arm a guard, or something like that. Just really a unique player. And like you said, he changed the game. Unique
in the sense of a lot of guys that are his size are big frame guys, tall, long length. I think of like Richard Seymour, like Lance Campbell, Reggie White. Those guys are a majority power, and JJ had power, but JJ was more finesse than power.
Right.
And he had the quicks of a small guy in a big frame. Yeah. Which you see that with Chris Jones.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's amazing to see these guys of that size and stature be able to move like a little guy. And that's what makes them so difficult, because not only can they hit you with the power, they're just as quick and agile as elite, smaller defenders.
Yeah, I mean, think about as an offensive lineman going against him, where you have that quickness, that agility, also the power, and the sort of going rogue outlaw, and you think he's going to be in one place and he could be 3 gaps over,
Definitely were some conversations had with that. He definitely, but he was an extremely smart football player. He is an extremely smart. He's still playing. We're talking like he's done now. Yeah. He's an extremely smart football player. So, he's playing chess out there. He knows exactly what you're thinking. And the second you think he's going to hit you with that Olay, he sticks to his assignment sound football and he beats you inside. You can't cut him off.
I remember, I don't know if it was his first year, but it was one of his early years where they did Hard Knocks in Houston, and they were filming him and following him around. And he was like outside at night. It was like he was on the
that's what I saw. That's why I hated him before. I was a teammate, so I'm like, this is fake. He's doing this all for the cameras.
I was going to ask you, so that's the truth. That's the real deal.
That's really him. I wasn't his team at the time, but obviously we watched Hard Knocks, and I remember seeing them like, God, this guy acts like there's a camera always around. Everything's scripted. Why is he doing that? He just wants to be in front of the camera. But that is his routine. I promise you. I saw it with my own eyes. No cameras around, nobody watching. That is him every single day. And not only a great football player, works extremely hard at his craft off the field. The amount of things he did for the community in Houston, back in Wisconsin, in his hometown. Dude's just a genuine dude, straight up and down. I can't say more good things about him. I mean, he's phenomenal dude.
Yeah. And to go back to the other point you made about just the work ethic, I think we've talked about this before, but there are really 3 types of players in the NFL. They're the guys like myself who don't really have the talent and ability, but have the work ethic and just get after it, and they make a career for themselves. Then you have the people on the other side of the spectrum who don't really have that work ethic. They don't really, but they have so much talent that they can overcompensate for just sort of, going out there and getting it done. But there's this third person who has both, right? And so this is the Tom Brady's, the J.J. Watts, the Darrelle Reeveses, the Peyton Mannings. These are the people, these are the players that work like they're undrafted free agents, but have the talent, have more talent than anybody. And that's when you have a Hall of Fame guy. And J.J. Watt was one of those guys. I mean,
definitely.
So hats off to him. That's an incredible career. Congratulations, JJ. That's awesome. All right, brother. Well, let's get back into the Chiefs now. Great win against Seattle. I think this was an important win, the way they handled it, right? Because we had seen some sloppy football before. This really seemed like all 3 phases was firing and playing well, and it was a solid game. And Seattle's not a bad team. You know what I mean? I think Geno Smith made the Pro Bowl. I mean, he's had a good year.
He's about to get paid. I'm so happy for that guy.
Yeah. No. He what a time. I mean, what year is this for him? Because he came in and
this is like year 8. This may be year 10 for Geno.
Yeah, unbelievable. Imagine coming into your own at year 10. That's incredible. But no, I mean, this was a good team, and I believe this was the first game since week 5 that the offense hasn't turned it over. That was a surprising stat. That's the kind of football you got to be playing nowadays, because especially going to the playoffs, because these good teams will make you pay for those turnovers. But I know all of our shows here on KCSN have covered the details. Yeah. But I mean, just a good, solid game. And perfect. This is the time of year where you want to be firing everything up, right? You want these next 2 games going into the playoffs, everything fine-tuned, looking good, looking perfect, no doubts, no worries. That way, when you get into that playoff that playoff atmosphere, you're not worried about, oh no, did we have this fixed or that fixed, or is something coming back and bite us? Confidence is rolling high and you're ready to go. One team I always think about, I think the paradigm case for that was the 2007 New York Giants. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
So remember they finished the season.
They were the last seed in the playoffs. I want to say they barely had a winning record.
Right. 9-7.
They went on the run and won the Super Bowl.
And beat undefeated New England in the Super Bowl.
Shout out to Tyree, with the helmet catch.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was as a Jets fan, as a Jets player at that time, that was a terrible game to watch. The freaking Giants and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But no, so back to the Chiefs. I mean, everything seems to be, well oiled and going in the right direction, given going into the playoffs. What did you see, brother? Any big picture stuff?
Listen, before I get into the full scope of the game, I want to touch on special teams and the field goal unit. Shout out to Dustin Colquitt, our guest last week. If you didn't watch that episode, go back and watch it.
Yeah, please. That was good.
I got a lot of knowledge from that episode. So going into this game, I was looking for those mistakes that he spoke upon, on other shows on the KCSN network and including ours. And I watched those laces. I looked at the operation, and Tommy got it right every single time. And guess what? We made every single kick. So Dustin was right.
Right. You know what's frustrating? What frustrated the hell out of me, and I tried to bite my tongue last week, was the fact that you have this young punter, with a guy like Dustin, who he knows, who's been in the locker room with, who is offering advice, and this kid's kind of like,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. We don't listen to people outside the facility. And I would have had so much more respect if he would have just said, yeah, I got, even said, I can do better. I can get that right. I mean, it's a quick comment, let it go. So it was just that was frustrating to me. And the thing that's funny is he got the ball right, but his punts weren't very, very good.
I wasn't paying attention to the punts. I was literally locked in on field goal. I was like, let me see if this guy corrects this. So I was happy to see that. Yeah. And obviously, like you said, when we get to the playoffs, these are going to be one possession games. Right. There's not going to be many blowouts. They're going to come down to 3s and 6s or even 1s. If you're getting you got to make those kicks and PATs. Right. So I was happy to see that. Offensively, I thought we were really efficient. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, did a really phenomenal job. The O-line was extremely physical. I saw Trey Smith kill a man. Jared McKinnon has been unbelievable. This stretch he's on right now. Playoff McKinnon, I called it last year, and I'm seeing it even earlier now. So I'm hoping he carries that momentum on to the playoffs, because it's huge to have a guy not only be able to, run the ball in between the tackles, get on the edge with some speed. But in the pass game, he's another threat. And in the red zone, he's been Patrick's go-to. It's usually Travis. Right. But in that red zone, he's looking for number 1. So I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing, and it's only going to make us better. And Juju, he's become a third down machine just like Travis. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. As long as these guys don't turn the ball over, like you mentioned, they run the ball efficiently. I think not this game, but the Texans game before, I know we ran the ball more than we had the entire year, and Patrick had his most efficient game. I mean, he what was it, 88% completion rate? And that's not by mistake. That was by design. It's based upon the sets they're coming out. They're short and run. They're going play action off of that. They're running the ball efficiently, and Patrick is getting good, clean pockets because of it. And it takes the pressure off the O-line, and it gives Patrick more opportunity to make big plays down the field off the play action. So let's continue to do that, and we're going to need to do it in the cold.
Every coach that I've played for has said these big games, especially in playoff atmospheres, cold atmospheres, they come down to the big guys up front. Yeah. If you can run the football and you can play sound defense, get pressure on the quarterback and stop the run on defense, that's devastating. And let me tell you something. As a defensive player, if I'm playing Pat Mahomes and that Chiefs offense and they can run the ball at will, I don't know.
What do you do?
You are dead.
What do you do? There's nothing you can do.
Because you cannot commit guys to the run. Because the second you do, you're done. You have to have – I mean, and I played against Manning and Brady where we had these sort of – but I have never seen anything like this. If Kansas City can run the football, oh, my goodness, there's just – you just cannot come out of your nickel and dime stuff against them, or you have to go light box.
I'm a huge basketball guy, and I know this is a football-based podcast, but I equate it to Giannis getting a 3-point shot. You know, everyone knows Giannis the Greek Freak from Milwaukee.
Right.
Could you imagine if Giannis hit the three consistently? He'd be the most unguardable, unstoppable force ever to play basketball.
That's a great analogy.
If the Chiefs can run the football efficiently, and now they can run the ball efficiently, if we can stick to it and somehow get a good balance and mix and trust it enough offensively, and it makes the defense job easier. Like, they're not on the field as much. We're eating up some time of possession.
Right.
The only thing with that, it slows the game down a little bit. You have less possessions, so we have to make every single possession count.
Yeah.
But we will do that because of Patrick's efficiency in the pass game and the defense. They're on their heels. Like, you don't know what's coming. So
it's killer.
We just have to do it. What'd you see from the defense? I thought that was the best defensive game all year collectively.
Yeah, it was. It was just, it was technically sound. At the secondary played great. I mean, rushing up front, pressure on the quarterback. Frank Clark looked great. Obviously, the guys inside looked great. I mean, it was a complete. When we talk about all three phases doing what they're supposed to do, everybody looked good, and the defense not an exception. Going back to the last point, though, before we move on from that, the one thing I did want to say too is it'd be especially helpful to run the football if we end up playing some of these teams that aren't high. Like, so say we play Tennessee or the Jets, or say we don't get that 1 seed and we're playing some of these wild card games where these offenses don't have the power to strike the way Kansas City does. You can run the football on them. So they even have less time on offense with the offenses that haven't been put up. I mean, this is just, so I guess I'm going back to that point, sticking to the run this time of year and getting that dialed up. And, we need to win these two games to get that number 1 seed, right? I mean, obviously we need Buffalo to lose. We need to win these two games, but these two games are good. This is a good time to run the football, right? Don't let Russell Wilson get going. Don't let him get, we know he's struggling all year, but we know he still has talent and ability to get it done. Don't even give him the opportunity to do it. Just put a beating on that defense, run the football, give guys a break a little bit too, right? Give everybody less touches, take up, time of possession, so you can start building in almost like not a bye, but just take away as many possessions as you can from the other team. You go nice and slow and steady running the football.
That slows the game down. There's less plays. It gives the offensive line the ability to be physical, and it also, like I said, defensively by us offensively, if we run the ball, it takes pressure off the defense as well, because now they're able to get rest on that sideline. Now they're able to come out, with full energy and get after the passer if they need to when we have a lead, or stop the run, depending on the situation. So it all ties in together, and it's complementary football. And when you have complementary football during these months, you win a lot of games, especially in the playoffs. That's what it's all about, all three phases clicking at the same time.
Yeah, when I was with the Jets, those 2 years we went to the AFC Championship game, we had like a Hall of Fame offensive line, right? I mean, we had, Alan Faneca, DeBrickashaw, Nick Mangold, all these guys, Brandon Moore, Damian Woody, and we had Thomas Jones and LaDainian Thomas. And I just remember this is a great thing. This is, like Andy Reid said, it's a beautiful thing. They would have the ball for so long that the defense, we'd have to start warming up again. Like, hey, get warmed up. I mean, they would go on these drives, and you guys did the same thing in Kansas City. But Andy Reid's offense is obviously different. There's more stuff, but with Rex and that offense, they would just stick to the run, and like it was great. In December, we'd be up in Buffalo or playing somebody in the playoffs, and we'd just be sitting there. And 7-8 minute drive, 9 minute drives. It's just like, oh man.
Like I said, we have to get used to it. And as great as Patrick is, he's the best quarterback in football. He's going to be the MVP in my opinion. You always want him to control the game and have the ball in his hand when it matters the most. If there's a situation, the game on the line, I want Patrick to dictate it.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying throughout the game, we need to dictate, as an offensive line, what the tempo is going to be.
Right.
How physical are we going to be? And it's going to give Patrick even more opportunity to take shots down the field. And naturally, during these times, especially us being an outdoor team, if we don't get this number 1 seed and we go on the road to Buffalo, the conditions aren't going to lend themselves to passing the ball 40 times.
Yeah, right.
They're going to have to run the football because it's going to be windy. It's going to be cold. Receivers are going to drop passes because of the weather. There's going to be a ton of different things that will tell you, run the damn football.
Right.
So we need to gear up for that right now.
You know what I'd love to see too, Jeff, is some of the old school. Give me 21 personnel, 22 personnel. We do a show. I do a show with Derek and Craig on KCSN on with DJ and Craig on Thursdays. And last week we just watched a bunch of runs from the previous game, and it's funny because you look at, and we've been doing this all year, and you look at run games nowadays and what sort of what the
formations,
concept, formations, concepts, and all of it is stuff that when you and I were playing back 2013, 14, would have been just third down runs. Mm-hmm. Now third down runs, just all the runs, right? Everything's out of 11 and 12 personnel. Yep. One back runs, zone read stuff.
Spread them out. RPOs.
I would love to see some 22 personnel. Man, get some 20 and go behind those two big guys up front. Go behind Trey Smith on a double team power. It's like that's what I'd love to see. Boy, that would get me fired.
That's punishing. We see it from time to time, usually short yardage when we come out with the fullback.
Yeah.
2 tight end sets and run power. We call it God's play.
God's play. That's right.
That's a beautiful. It's a beautiful play, man.
That's it, man.
You physically impose your will. Everybody knows based upon the formation what's coming.
What's going on?
You got all big bodies in there. It's us versus you. Who's going to be better?
Ooh, I love that.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
There is nothing better than when you're strapping up the chin strap and you're getting down into your stance in one of those situations.
Yeah.
Like it's just palpable, the feeling. It's just a different feeling. That short yardage, goal line, like let's get after it. Boy, I'd love to see some of that.
I mean, and I don't know the actual statistic, but when you rush for a touchdown during the game, I want to say it's like a 70% chance that you win that game.
Really?
Like your odds go way up when you rush for a touchdown.
Wow.
And offensive line coaches talk about that all the time. And no matter who your coach is, that's one of those statistics that they have in their back pocket. And I'm sure they're in the staff meetings mentioning it. They're on the table like, hey, we need to run the ball a little bit more.
Man.
But that's just what the game is just different now, obviously.
It is, yeah.
And I do like the game now. It's more fun in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
it is fun to watch. Yeah,
it is fun to watch. But I do think there's times where I do wish we ran the ball a little bit more. Just as a league, not just the Chiefs, the league in general, just football in general, college, pro. Like it's just we're kind of. I mean, most teams don't have fullbacks anymore. We're one of the exceptions. I'm going to say there's like six or seven teams in the league that have a fullback on their roster. So
unbelievable.
It's just It's a different game now.
It's incredible. And I just said I wouldn't want to be playing. Obviously, I would want to be out there playing, but I would not get much time playing in this NFL. But every week I'm like old man yelling at the clouds over here. But no, You're right. It is a fun game to watch. It's a good time to be a fan. You mentioned Pat Mahomes and the MVP race. Let's just talk about this quick because the one thing, it's always funny to me how this is even in debate. Now, you remember Michael Jordan with the iconic picture that they have of him dunk on the – yep. I feel like every week Mahomes has a picture he does something that's just so iconic. And when and I'm forgetting the stat now, but when you put what Mahomes has done in 6 years, he's gotten the same amount accomplished in a number of these statistical categories that Brady and Manning and all those guys did over 20 years' time.
Yeah, so he's I want to say 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns.
Was that what it was?
He has 4 seasons doing that. The next person I want to say I think it's Peyton Manning. He has 5. Obviously, that's over the course of their entire career.
2 decades.
Mahomes has been in the league for 6. He's been a starter for 5, and he still has more to go this year. He's broken every single record. You can't compare him to anybody. He's in his own category right now statistically. What he does on the field is special. He has so many Mahomes moments that we've become numb to it.
Really? Yeah.
We have. He does something special every single game, and it's just like, that's normal.
Right.
But I mean, there's more to come, man. This guy is really special, and the cool thing about him is he doesn't care about any of those moments.
Right.
The only thing he cares about is winning a Super Bowl, and this kid's just a winner, man.
That's special.
He's carrying us right now, and I know we have a great team, but his mentality is carrying this group. His leadership is carrying this group. His want to is carrying this team. Everybody's looking at him for inspiration, and they're getting it. He's going to make something happen, and we all know it. Like, no matter what the situation is, we know, Patrick is going to figure something out. As long as we keep it close, as long as we give him the ball one more time defensively, as long as we keep it within arm's length, like, Patrick is going to get it done. So these guys believe in one another, but most importantly, they believe in the quarterback they have.
Right.
Our producer just checked in. He said Mahomes owns all 4 top spots in franchise history for yards and touchdowns in a season.
Well, here's my question, Jeff. So this is when you think about the MVP, I always think that sort of the metric or the metric or whatever the test for who is the MVP was if you're gonna build your team and you can pick anybody, who's the first player you're gonna pick? Right? I think universally you're gonna pick Mahomes. You're gonna pick Mahomes this year and every year.
It's gonna be him, and I mean, obviously we're Chiefs guys, and I guess we have some bias, but Patrick is the best football player on the planet right now.
Objectively true.
That is objectively true. It's just true in all realms. Like, you can't prove it otherwise. But he's reached that era where you want to give it to someone else.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I understand that. I mean,
and Hurts is having a hell of a year. I think it's between those two guys.
Right.
And the argument is, you can't take it away from Hurts because he's hurt right now. He's had a hell of a year, but I think the year where Patrick, I think he went. I don't know what his record was, but I think he won 14 or 15 games. Had a hell of a year. They end up giving it to Aaron Rodgers because Patrick missed the game.
Yeah. It's one of these things. It's like the two things that just boggle my mind are when it comes to Pat Mahomes are the MVP talk and the preseason hate that we get. Like, the Chiefs lost Hill. They're not going to be as good. But I feel like it's not just this year. Every year, the Chiefs aren't going to make it. The Chiefs don't have this, that, and it's like.
But that's even more reason why he should win it this year, because there were more questions this year than any other year. That's always that argument.
That's a good point.
They're going to fall off the cliff this year, but this is the year where every single media outlet said, hey, the Chiefs are worse now than they were before. And it was because we lost Hill. Offensively, they didn't know what our identity was. Right. They didn't know what was going to happen. It was always, Patrick's great, but he has all these weapons. Anybody can be great in that situation. And no disrespect to Alex Smith. I love Alex, but Alex had those same weapons. Right. At some point, you got to realize this kid is special. And it doesn't matter what you draw up, the Patrick Mahomes effect is going to make that play even greater. He's going to make that call look better. He's going to see it differently because that's who he is. He makes this – it's a perfect pairing between him and Andy Reid, but Patrick is definitely a once-in-a-generation type of guy.
Beautiful. I love it. Pat Mahomes MVP. We called it here. Jeff Stradamus. Let's go on to this Denver game. A lot of stuff going on in Denver right now. Obviously, head coach gets fired. And this whole thing has me a little bit nervous. This time of year has me nervous. And playing a team like this right now has me nervous. Yes. And I'll tell you why, Jeff. First off, you don't know who the coach is. Did they name an intern coach? I don't know.
Yeah, they did. I don't know his name, but I do know he was like the strategist or something. He watched the clock for the head coach, told him what decisions to make, which is a problem in itself. Like, you're the head coach, and you're supposed to be managing the game. Why you got somebody else doing it for you?
Right. That's
there
funny.
It is. He's on this.
Okay, Jerry Roseberg.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what. So a couple things that get me nervous. All right, we talk about Russell Wilson. He's got 2 games to show up. He wants to go out, leaving Denver with at least some sort of good taste in their mouth, and he has the ability to do it. And if I were this new guy coming in, I would do whatever they did in Seattle. I would just go right back to doing whatever they did in Seattle, because obviously 9-time Pro Bowler in 10 years out there. Just do that. Just do whatever they did in Seattle. He's going to be motivated. This is the best game that he had this year, Jeff, was against
the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
But you know what's funny about that statement, do what you did in Seattle?
Yeah.
What's ironic about that is that's the reason why he isn't in Seattle. He didn't want to run the ball as much as they were running it.
I know.
But they gave him balance. They gave him opportunity to make big plays down the field, to get in those sets and run play action. I talked about it earlier in the podcast. That's what made Russell – efficient. And Pete knew the team he had. He knew defensively they had a great defense. As long as we didn't mess it up, as long as Russ didn't turn the ball over, if we ran the ball efficiently and we took our shots here and there, we're going to win football games. But that Russ wanted to cook.
Yeah, well,
and he's cooking right now in Denver, the wrong recipe. But,
I don't know what he's cooking.
But Russ is – I don't want to be the man while he's down, but Russ is still a good football player.
Right.
It's just like when a baseball player goes into a slump. Mentally, when you continue to make mistakes, depending on how you look at it, mentally you can go spiral in the wrong direction. And I feel like it's a little bit of, being in a different offense, not having success, and then mentally beating yourself up so much that you're not going to find it this year.
Right.
I'm hoping that this offseason reevaluates a lot of things and he comes back out as the Russ of old.
Right.
But not this week. We don't want to see that.
Not this
Russ.
week. No, exactly.
We don't want to see that, Russ. We'll see it next
We don't
week.
want to see it. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We don't want to see that. But it does get me nervous because he's got to show up. The other thing that gets me nervous is this team has nothing to lose. Nothing to lose.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be – everybody's playing and coaching for their jobs, right? So you have nothing to lose on the field. You're not going anywhere. But you're trying to show up and, make a statement so that these guys could either stay in Denver or get jobs elsewhere. Yeah. So this is a time where you get a lot of guys that will go rogue, whether it be coaches. You see this a lot on special teams, right? You got a 4th and 3, all of a sudden the personal protector's throwing a pass to throwing a pass or something. I mean, you have a lot of situations that you really have to be aware of what's going on because this team could do anything. On offense, they could do anything. Defense, they could do anything. I mean, and stuff that's just uncharacteristic, stuff that you wouldn't normally go for it on 4th down, or guys not playing within the defense or the offense, but they want to go out there and make plays. They're doing uncharacteristic stuff. So
that's definitely going to be that is scary for sure. That's
scary. So
you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get trick plays. You're going to get
everything,
unscripted things that you game plan for that you didn't game plan for, and guys are just going to be they're going to be trying to make plays. So that is a scary situation. I think Andy Reid and Spags and Eric Bieniemy, all these position coaches, they're going to get these guys prepared the best they can, and they're going to put that in their mind. They know that this team is desperate. They have nothing to lose. The playoffs are off the table, so this is their Super Bowl. So they're going to come out with effort, and they're going to do some wacky things. So be ready.
That's exactly right. And those are two things. The third thing that has me worried is when I reflect back on my time, and Jeff, I'm sure you can attest to this too. This time of year is tough. This time of year is tough. It's freaking cold. Everybody's up for the holidays. There's a million distractions. You're tired. You've eaten, too much. The meetings the practice time is cut down. It's very hard. It takes a very mature team to dial in and get things right for Sunday this time of year. And we know how much is at stake, right? You lose one, and now you're basically guaranteed to lose. Well, you're really in bad shape. That one spot becomes almost out of reach. So,
we know what's at stake. This is a big one. This I would be more afraid about this matchup if it weren't at this time. We know we're in playoff mode right now. This is win or go home in our minds.
Right.
We're trying to get that number 1 seed, get that bye week, and host another AFC championship in Arrowhead. So these guys are going to be fully locked in. I know Denver's defense is going to they're going to come out pissed off. I mean, as bad as this team has been, the defense has showed up pretty much every week for Denver, except for last week. And Baker Mayfield and the Rams pretty much embarrassed them. So they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to do their part. Offensively, we got to make sure we come out ready because they did have some success against us our first matchup. And their pass defense is really good. So we have to come out offensively ready to go. I think defensively, we should be able to get after these guys. They struggle to protect the passer. Russ hasn't played really well. He did have a good game against us, but this season hasn't played well. So we should come out ready to go.
And just before we leave, don't you miss this time of year? I mean, as I was talking about it, I was thinking back like the hotels this time of year. You're going in and everything's decorated and the family's there, and it's just playoff football right around the corner. This is as much as I'm nervous about, I get nervous about this time of year when you're watching a team, it's a very fun time of year to be a player.
Yes.
Especially with the playoffs being a live thing, right? I'm talking to my family and, who's getting tickets, who's coming to the game, how many flights we got to get. I mean, you're already making those preparations in Kansas City, and that's a lot of fun and very exciting. So, well, good, Big Jeff. Here we go, baby. We're on to another week. 2 weeks left in the season. Let's finish it out. Let's get this number 1 seed. Hopefully Buffalo loses and get that break. But either way, man, things are looking good. One-on-one, Chiefs Kingdom, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We will see you next week with a win and one more week, and then we'll get into these playoffs.
Yes,
Love
sir.
you, Big Jeff.
Go Chiefs. Beat the Donkeys.